Really hard. The other two were like,
Hello, good evening everybody. Welcome to the West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, June the 16th. To start the meeting, will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be aware this meeting is being streamed on YouTube, and the meeting may also be audio or video recorded by people present in the room. Our first item of business is public comment, so this is the opportunity for anyone in attendance to make a comment or ask a question about anything that is not on the agenda tonight. Doug? Doug, I know if the microphone's on, if you would switch it on if it isn't, please.
Test 1, 2. Okay. Doug White, West Goshen, Caswellen. Two things. I noticed there are a proliferation of these high-speed electric scooters up and down the street. I guess on other streets. I'm assuming that they exceed the speed limit. Is there any kind of concern or regulation concerning these high-speed electric scooters that these kids are using? Or is there any, is there any interest in having a discussion about it?
I remember that was a topic at the recent Police Traffic Safety Committee. There are rules and laws associated with them. I'm not sure what they are specifically in terms of, control it. I don't know if Captain Emilio, you have any specific information?
We posted something just recently on our website. We posted something recently on the website. It's a fact sheet about them on the website and on social media. So as far as the speed limit, they can't there's different. We're talking about e-bikes. E-bikes is a big thing these days, but there's also electric scooters. So there's two different animals we're dealing here. But both of them can't exceed more than 20 miles per hour. Obviously, unless they're also got their time on. We don't know that, but and they both have a minimum age of 16. So that's where the enforcement would be easier to be had. So we have, and just like Mr. Walsh said, we discussed that, or they discussed that at the recent traffic safety meeting. We encourage people to call. We did have a recent neighborhood, Caswell being one of them, and another neighborhood in the south called recently about them. And usually by the time we get there, they're not there. But one recently, there was contact with them, and we spoke to the parents and just educated them on the laws of it. But if I refer you to the the social media, and it has a pretty comprehensive chart on what the laws are. So if you have questions about that.
Are they street legal at all?
Well, again, yes, the e-bikes and motor scooters are street legal depending on CCs, the engine CCs, and the brake horsepower. Most of them are under the maximum amount. So to answer the question, yes, the ones we're seeing are street legal.
And they have to be 16 or older to be operating these electric scooters?
Yes,
Okay,
on the streets.
on the street. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so you had a second question?
Yes, my second question is, the proposed landscape plan for Gershwin along the buffer, what's the status? Is it going to be completed, or?
It's going to have to be completed before close out of the project. So are you talking about the reestablishment of the disturbance that occurred a couple years ago?
No, just the actual proposed landscaping to be placed in hasn't occurred in a lot of that area. Some of the area, yes.
Well, then anything that's on the approved and recorded land development plan would have to be completed before close out of the project.
And it has not been closed out,
It
correct?
has not been closed out.
Okay, so that's being watched. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Is there anyone else with a comment? Mr. Etchicott?
Hi, I'm Tom Edgecombe from West Goshen. Most of the time I come up here with a concern or a complaint, but tonight it's a thank you. And I want to thank the West Goshen Police and Traffic Safety. And I guess it was the engineer that came out maybe last week or so. They came out to an intersection of West Town Road, Falcon Lane, and Little Shiloh, which were a concern of mine. But I guess they did a survey of it for the sight lines on that road, and they placed several ribbons around trees that need to be either trimmed or taken down. In my point of view, I thought 2 at least were there, but they put like 5 ribbons on trees, so to improve the sight lines of that road. I think it's great, and I applaud the police for doing that, and traffic safety and the engineering department. So thank you. I don't know if anyone knows, but I hope it also takes in the southeast corner of Little Shiloh. And I don't know if anyone here would know that, but as far as improving the sight line there. So,
That's where the embankment is, right?
Correct.
So these trees, are they on the embankment or the?
yes, it's a heavily wooded area.
The zoning officer went out and cited the owner there on that one particular corner.
Correct. As
Yeah.
Mr. Edgecombe had mentioned, the township did
Thanks,
receive
Shelby.
concerns and complaints about that intersection. The police department and the traffic safety unit did complete a site study. We're working on that southeast corner. That southeast corner is rather hard with the topography and the hill. The hill really impacts that sight line going down towards West Town Way. So we're still working on that portion of the intersection, but on the portion of the, I guess that would be the southwest corner, there are several trees and bushes that we had marked to either raise the canopy or remove, and we're working with the homeowner, so you should see some movement on that probably in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Did they file for an extension, any of those homeowners?
So I know that we're meeting the homeowner this week to discuss exactly, because as you said, we put orange ribbon around the trees in question, and the homeowner had called to ask us to come out and kind of work with them on what exactly the township and traffic safety was looking at. So actually, in conjunction with the police department and public works, there is a meeting later this week to meet with that homeowner. And then from there, they've already hired a tree company, so just getting that on their schedule to get out to be completed. So I would say you're going to see some movement there probably by the end of this month, early next month, but it all depends on when the tree company can get out there to raise those canopies.
Okay, that's greatly appreciated, thank you.
No problem.
Just one other point,
Yeah.
that southeast corner, like, it does need to be done. But PennDOT also said you need a permit, so to get that work to be started, you would have to file for a permit, an occupancy, because it's a state highway or state intersection, so.
Like I said, I know us, like our department and codes, the public works department and traffic safety are all working together on how to kind of combat that hill, that curve, and that intersection, also with it being a state road. It's a little
Okay.
more complex.
Great, thanks again.
No problem.
Thank you.
And I just would say, Tommy, thank you for bringing this up and staying on it, because that's how stuff gets done.
Is there anyone else with a public comment? Okay, then we'll move to the next item of business, which is agenda item 4, discussion and possible approval of an amendment to West Goshen Township's 457B deferred compensation plan to allow for Roth contributions. Chris, you want to introduce this, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and we have Drew Schaefer here this evening from Ellis Investment Partners. They manage the 457 plan for the township. So before the board this evening is a proposed amendment to the township's 457B deferred compensation plan in order to allow Roth contributions. The 457 plan currently operates traditionally, meaning that contributions are made before taxes are applied and then taxes are paid when funds are withdrawn in retirement. Roth allows for after-tax contributions, and qualified withdrawals during retirement are not taxed. So I had met with Ellis Investment Partners, who manages the plan, to discuss this matter. The plan does not currently provide for these types of contributions, and they advise that this should be amended, particularly in the case of employees seeking to make what are known as catch-up contributions. And additionally, effective in 2026, participants over the age of 50 who meet certain age levels must make who are making age-based catch-up contributions must be done as Roth contributions. I'll note for the record that the township does not make any matching contributions to the 457 plan. These are all employee contributions through payroll deductions. And as I said, Mr. Schaefer is here this evening to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Chris. So I'm going to ask the board if there's any questions for Mr. Schaefer this evening about this proposed plan amendment. No one have any questions? So I have one question. So this is obviously something that I would expect several municipal plans are looking to modify or have been modifying. Have you got any experience you can relate related to government entities doing these this additional investment option?
Yep, exactly, Sean. This is just a way to modernize your retirement plan for the township. It offers a lot of flexibility for the participants. Most retirement plans nowadays do have this. It's no cost to the township. It just simply allows the participants who are deferring into these plans to decide, hey, you know what, it'd be more beneficial for me to get taxed on this money now and let it grow tax-free, so that when they retire, they can take out the money tax-free, versus how the plan is set up right now in a traditional sense. They get a deduction when they put money in, which is nice, but then everything goes with ordinary income. So when they take the money out in retirement, they're being fully taxed. So a lot of participants just kind of like the flexibility to choose based on their own personal financial situation. But really the primary reason we're recommending this now, one, yes, it would modernize it, but secondly, to what Chris just mentioned, there's new legislation that came out in 2024, the Secure Act 2.0, where for highly compensated employees, so anyone in the township who's making $150,000 or more in this retirement plan, if they want to do what's called catch-up contributions, which is contributing or deferring more than the allowed amount when you're 50 years or older, the government's now requiring that those must be Roth contributions. And as the plan is currently set up right now, it would not be able to handle those contributions. So it's just a quick amendment that allows those. Again, no cost, and it's very simple to change. But yes, it would modernize the plan, Sean.
Thank you. And just so I'm clear, so is there any, the limitations on Roth and IRA contributions, is there any, are they the same for local government employees as they are for any other employer?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the nice part about these 457 plans and 401k plans. They're very high contribution limits. So it's $24,500 a year can be deferred into them. There's no income limits. Like a Roth IRA, it matters how much money you make, whether you're eligible to contribute or not. 457 plans, it doesn't matter how much money you make. You can contribute Roth. So that's the nice benefit of that as well.
Thank you. Anyone else got any questions? Okay, is there a board member willing to make a motion to approve the amendment to the Township 457B deferred compensation plan to allow for Roth contributions?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Nate. Thank you, Tina. Is there any public comments or questions on the motion? Okay, then we'll take a vote. All in favour say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate your time tonight. Short and sweet, so
Yes.
you can enjoy the rest of your evening. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 5, which is discussion and possible authorization to advertise the proposed zoning ordinance for West Goshen Township. Chris.
Mr. Chairman, we have Judith Stern-Goldstein here this evening from Gilmore & Associates, who is our consultant on this project. So before the board this evening is potential authorization to advertise the proposed zoning ordinance for West Goshen Township. This document represents a comprehensive update to the township's existing zoning ordinance. By way of background information, at the April 2nd, 2024 meeting, the board awarded a professional services contract to complete an update to the township zoning ordinance to Gilmore & Associates. This was based on an RFP that was issued. And during the development of the RFP, we identified numerous issues with the current zoning ordinance, including the fact that it was lengthy and sometimes difficult for residents, property owners, and developers to apply and interpret, inconsistencies among sections and lack of cross-references, numerous amendments and overlay districts that have become burdensome, not user-friendly, and a lack of consistent graphics to improve readability, regulations contained within definitions, tables, footnotes, and other less obvious locations, and design regulations currently in the zoning ordinance that may be better suited for the township subdivision and land development ordinance. So I will note that the current zoning ordinance also contains 22 individual zoning districts and numerous overlay districts. So over the course of the last 2 years, the township has worked through the Land Planning Committee with Gilmore & Associates and members of the township staff to develop the proposed document that is being discussed this evening. And the zoning ordinance that's before the board for consideration to advertise would accomplish the following. Reduce the number of zoning districts based on evaluating like uses among existing districts, separating out different supplemental requirements in order to make it more user-friendly, providing visual representations where possible, and creating a chart of uses to navigate where different uses are permitted as well as how they are permitted, and establishing requirements for such uses as accessory dwelling units, data centers, short-term rentals, and historic resource protection. As part of this process, the township held a joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission on January 28th. And if the board does authorize the proposed ordinance for advertisement, the next steps would be review by the township's Planning Commission, which if authorized for advertisement, we would schedule for their July meeting. Review by the Chester County Planning Commission, which must be done 45 days prior to adoption, and tentative adoption at the first meeting in August. So in terms of who was involved in this, I want to thank the following individuals. The members of the Board of Supervisors on the Land Planning Committee, which were Ms. Gagne, Vice Chair Hellman, and previously Chairman Walsh. Members of the Planning Commission, who included Alessandra Belwar, Doug Stewart, the former chairman, Corey Wegerbauer, and Terry Wildrick, as well as our former township engineer Brian Kolakowski, our GIS technician Emily Hollenbach, who helped with the mapping, and our zoning officer Shelby Smith, and our consultants who are Solicitor Kristen Camp, Judy Stern-Goldstein from Gilmore & Associates, and Stacy Yoder from Gilmore & Associates.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. Judy, do you have any words for us tonight? Anything you would like to share in terms of an update since the joint meeting when you were here with the supervisors and the Planning Commission members?
Yes, thank you. Since the joint meeting that we had with you and with the Planning Commission, we went back, made the changes that came from that meeting, made the changes that came from the diligent review from all of you and the Planning Commission members from that meeting. They were all funneled into Chris, came to me. There were some recommended edits by Kristen also. We implemented them. And then we did add in the data center use. We amended information regarding short-term rentals. We added in the Historic Resources District, which had been sort of being created during the entire 2 years that we were working on that ordinance and just came mostly to fruition more recently, so we added that in also. We then reformatted to include those additional uses in the document and issued another draft which went out to the group of you. And we do have some edits that if you were to authorize advertising tonight, we would make the minor edits that came to us from Kristen and from Tina Marie just in the last week or two. They would be done within the week, get back to you so they can go out for advertising. housing. So that's where we are tonight. That was what happened since our last meeting.
Okay, could you describe the minor edits just so the full board is aware of what is maybe slightly different than we've received?
Minor edits, there were some, I think, 2 or 3 minor edits to the data center use regs. One had to do with, yeah, it was noise and vibration, thank you. I think they were both noise and vibration. And then Tina Marie had a couple dealing with references to DEP and 1 or 2 environmental references that she was kind enough to give us some more updated, more correct language.
And we also got, so we had sent the historic resource ordinance, which was a standalone. It is an amendment to zoning, but it was sort of on its own track. We had sent that to the County Planning Commission, and this week got a review letter. And Chris and I and Judy went over that letter. I think there was like 2 edits that we thought were appropriate to make. And so Judy's going to make those.
Right, so that your new zoning ordinance will be consistent with the amendment that you're adopting concurrently.
Okay, so those edits they weren't of any significant nature to the content of the historic ordinance?
No.
Okay.
They gave a lot of comments that I think Chris and I thought were not appropriate, to be honest.
Okay.
But the couple of the, and some they were just asking us to consider or think about, and we had answers that why we did it the way we did it. But I don't remember what the 2 changes were, but they were very minor.
Okay. Kristen, could I ask you, I mean, I know you've been involved quite a lot with the issue of data center ordinances here in Pennsylvania. Could you just, for the sake of folks in attendance and for the record, just describe the need for us to have that use within our zoning ordinance and some of the issues that you have been dealing with in terms of assisting and pulling together the data center ordinance and making sure it's in as good a shape as it can be?
So I will say, I don't know if anybody gets the PSAT's email, but every day they send an email that has relevant information on legislation. And today they had a very good article, a link to an article that was in their last Township News magazine. So they have a Township News magazines issued, and there was probably a 15-page article on data centers. Everybody wants access to it. It's a great article. And it talked about specific to the Commonwealth and municipalities that are dealing with actual data centers and things to think about. So Pennsylvania, fortunately or unfortunately, is required to allow in every municipality basically every land use. So it's not, unless you have a regional zoning ordinance, which I don't know any municipalities in Chester County that do, West Goshen Township has to provide in their zoning ordinance a zoning district where every use is allowed. So not specifically defining a data center use as a data center. Right now, somebody could come in and say, use the provision that we have as like a catch-all provision that says any other use not regulated. Well, that doesn't provide sufficient protection. So we felt it was necessary to, number 1, define the use. What is a data center? Allow it by conditional use, which is a review process that this board has to go through after a public hearing, where adjacent or property owners within 500 feet get notice of that hearing and can participate and alert the board of issues with respect to that particular application. So it's an ability for the board to be able to require an applicant to meet all the criteria in the ordinance, but also for the board to impose specific conditions relating to that specific data center at that location. So we thought that was the best method by which the use could be approved. And then it has very specific criteria that are things that the board needs to be concerned about. The primary ones that you hear about is the use of electricity, the use of water, and the noises that emanate from a data center. So the one change that Judy referenced, we have been working on these ordinances for probably 8-9 months now. Really used the Chester County Planning Commission resource guide that they developed in conjunction with Montgomery Planning Commission that just had, again, all the different things you want to think about and then tailor towards the municipality that you're working with. We did not feel that the noise regulations that were provided by the county were sufficient, so we reached to outside engineers that we work with, and we found 2 gentlemen that have PhDs in sound and vibration, and they provided us very specific decibel levels. Sound meters would need to be used to measure pre-construction and post-construction, and they gave specific levels of noise that would be permitted, obviously, post-construction. So we feel pretty good about those standards. We have reviewed them with a lot of building code officials, zoning officers, and feel that that's probably the best way to go about handling the noise and vibration that you may have from a data center. We spoke with, again, it was a collaborative effort where we're looking at specifically the properties in your industrial district, which is where the ordinance proposes the use to go, to identify what the minimum lot areas are, what the setbacks should be. We tried to keep it with as much as we could with other like uses to like for building heights and things like that, but then have very specific criteria that you would only find in something that's a data center building versus a warehouse building or just an office building. So this article and what I say to everybody on this topic is this is an evolving land use and we will continue to learn more. Obviously there's state legislation that's being proposed. Whether the state ever does anything that somehow impacts what the township puts in place, we'll have to always be on the lookout for that. We will also have to look to see if technology changes. So, we hear about what we're proposing and what we're regulating now may never even come to fruition, that technology may change so much that you won't need these large buildings. Who knows? But it's something that we, as every zoning ordinance is, a living, breathing document. We will have to be especially alert to this particular use and learn through collaboration with other municipalities, learn through applications that are proceeding their way through. For example, in East Whiteland right now, there's an application that's gone through the court system. And luckily we have a really collegial, both managers, zoning officers, and solicitors in the area. So we all help each other out and try to make it the best that we can to, again, we have to allow the use, but we can allow the use through a process and through conditions that we think will protect the adjoining property owners and the township generally.
That's great, thank you, Kristen. Okay, so at this point, I'm looking to the board to see what questions you have, either Judy, Kristen, or Chris, about where we are with the current zoning ordinance.
I'd like to raise an issue here on the MCX district for our parks. We had some discussion in the Land Planning Committee about making parks be MCX zone. This particular area here, which is the current reservoir, which is owned by Aqua, is going through a transition, which we may end up inheriting that particular parcel. So I think rather than having it zoned as BLI, which allows several residential uses, have it zoned as MCX, which would severely limit the amount of type of uses that could be utilized in that particular sector. So is there any problem in changing that zoning from BLI to MCX?
I believe the definition of the MCX district in the proposed zoning ordinance is specific to land that's owned by the township. And since the land isn't owned by the township at this time, I don't think you can change it to that zoning designation.
So what is it currently zoned?
Currently, that property is in residential.
Okay. R3 or?
I believe it's R3.
Which would be the new R1?
Correct.
So, but if the township is to acquire that property, would it make sense at a later date to zone it MCX? Or is there
No,
no difference?
You could absolutely do a map amendment.
Couldn't you also change the definition of what's allowed in the MCX district to be other public uses? So it doesn't have to be so limiting to being owned by the township so that you can still achieve the result that John's trying to achieve. And that's one idea.
That's an option.
The MCX permits uses that could be not owned by the township, but the land that was zoned MCX was all in the township, or owned by the township.
So if what you're saying is that if it's not limited to things that are owned by West Goshen, then there's no reason why it couldn't be zoned MCX
Right,
now.
I just want to look at the intent statement of that, because that might need to change. Just 1 second. So under the use right, or under the district regulations, I mean, you could have agriculture, forestry, recreation, library, museum, municipal use, public utility facility, radio, television studio. Let me just look at the intent statements 1 second here on the front.
I believe that's what I was looking at, we're talking about. Because I did the intent or the definition that talked about land owned by the township.
You're looking at 8431.
Yeah, I just looked at that. I'm going to go to 84.6 right now.
Also, the parks aren't zoned MCX, right? Not all of
That's
them?
correct. The only properties that are zoned MCX, I believe, are the wastewater treatment plant and the municipal complex property.
This is the intent statement on section 84.6, page 4 of the clean version.
Is there a page number, Judy?
Yes, there's page 4 at the bottom of the page. If you're looking at the clean version, if you're looking at the red line version, I'll give you a different page number. MCX Municipal Complex District. The intent of the MCX Municipal Complex District is to provide a district in which shall be located exclusively West Goshen Township's municipal offices, facilities, and other uses described in this article, and wireless communication facilities and equipment of entities holding a valid federal license when approved and determined by the supervisors to enhance telecommunications in the public interest. So not everything has to be owned by the township as long as it meets one of those other requirements.
So we believe, so I'm listening to you, I'm hearing that Chris's point is actually something that we don't have to worry about, because by permitting other uses, I mean, the exclusively refers to these things that are permitted, right? It doesn't mean it's exclusively West Goshen Township owned.
Correct, because it has
Other
other uses. So there's two things. I mean, you could wait until the township acquires it and change it then, or you could change it now. I don't know what the situation is on the land acquisition and how quickly that's pending.
I think it would be in the best interest of the township, is my opinion, to zone it MCX now.
That would be the point on it. So
We know, otherwise we still don't have a guarantee that this is becoming, we have no memorandum or contract or anything in place at this time. So with the intention of it ultimately being what we hope it will be, open space, I think moving to an MCX zoning would be in our interest at this point.
The only thing I caution, and I caution this whenever there's a downzoning of a property, is that essentially that is a taking of landowners' rights. So somebody right now, today, has the right to do other things with that property, and you would be severely limiting that. So I'm just bringing that up. That's always something to be considered.
But it's owned by Aqua, and Aqua has already expressed its intent not to continue to own it or use it for its purpose for which it purchased it. So I think I agree with you on your commentary, but I think in this particular case, when Aqua has already made public its desires, I don't think that you're diminishing Aqua's desires.
I know, but it's all on hold right now because of this contract essentially between Westchester Borough, and I understand that Westchester Borough has a right of first refusal, and I think that it is premature to rezone this before we even have an idea whether this is going to become our land. And so, I don't know, I think it might be a little premature.
And the other thing is, how would, if we do MCX and designate as that, how would that affect the house that's on there now that they're currently going to use as an office?
That would be an existing nonconformity.
Okay.
Right, anything that's existing there that predates the ordinance amendment.
It's public utility use, so it meets the code, it meets.
Right now it's public utility. It matches what the MCX district is in its current condition.
So it would be non-conforming because it would be.
Oh, I thought there was a dwelling on it separate.
But it's not used as a dwelling.
I'm using a dwelling.
Yeah.
So it's an office, then that's conforming now, and it would be conforming in the future.
I mean, I believe Aqua's intention was to actually subdivide the property and keep that, it's at a future date to subdivide it and donate the majority of the land where the reservoir sits to the township, but keep a parcel where this operations building sits as Aqua owned and zoned as currently.
So that's up to you, and that would be
It's a future.
change to the map that could happen also before that could be a condition of your authorizing advertising if you chose to do so.
The mapping was all done in-house, so we can change the map if that's the desire of the board relatively quickly.
Okay, so we've expressed a couple of views from the board on this particular topic. Is there anyone else on the board want to weigh in on their views as to whether leave it as residential, which it is today, BLI, which is what's proposed currently, or MCX, which was a suggestion from John?
We can always change it later too, if it goes through.
I prefer MCX.
Today.
the idea of having zone MCX would limit the potential for uses for that particular piece of property if some other party happened to acquire it other than the township. And there is a right to first refusal. We don't know what may happen. Let's just say it's a possibility. If the borough decides to acquire that and they decide they want to develop it, sell it off. I know, I hope they won't, but I'm just saying it's a possibility. So if we zoned it MCX today, then it would severely limit the ability of some other party being able to utilize it for other than what we hope it will be, which would be open space, non-developed.
Good point. Okay, so let's just poll the board. So actually, would you want to keep it BLI, R3, or MCX?
We can do MCX.
MCX. John's MCX. Okay, so it looks like the majority of the board would like that to be zoned MCX. If we're doing that, Chris, why would we want to look at the same time to do the community park, or are we just going to deal with that as a future change?
I mean, we could look at it. I don't remember we discussed this in the land planning committee, and I don't remember why we didn't zone them MCX. Was there a reason for that?
So hotly debated item, not forgetting what the conclusion was.
It was a
The
while
reason
ago.
behind it was a hotly debated item.
Well, no, I mean, exactly, it kept coming up. If we wanted to zone each of the parks, which we have, how many, 12, something like that, they would all end up being MCX along with the township municipal complex. And then I guess if we're doing the aqua reservoir, so I mean, if you're gonna do the aqua reservoir, why not do all the parks? But I agree, I don't know why we didn't end up settling on that. There must have been some.
I know that it was sort of point counterpoint for each one of those, and I know that one of the discussions was then they appear to be spot zoning when you have little parks, so like the larger parks
That's true.
made sense. The little ones, it's just a little island of the MCX, but you could explain that away because it's municipally owned.
I think the other thing you have to remember is most of your parks, at least ones that you've done improvements to or acquired through open space funds from the county, they're restricted anyway. Like, I know your community park has declarations of covenants that can be used for nothing other than public park land. So the zoning, to have it be whatever you have it, if it's not municipal complex, zoning is sort of superfluous because
But
they're
then that
restricted.
also raises a question too of the woodlands at Greystone area. Like that's a park. Does that become MCX?
Well, that's a little different because that was required open space for the development plan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But wouldn't we still want to zone that the same as everything else if it's a public park?
Or will be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that could go either way because that, again, when you look at how that 400 acres was zoned, that the only reason why you have that 162 acres coming was because it was part of the open space that was required to meet the area and bulk requirements. And so it almost like puts it out of, well, I guess, because that part's not changing. The zoning for that, Woodlands of Greystone is staying the same, isn't it?
It's staying the same,
Yeah.
yes, and that's a separate island unto itself in the ordinance.
Yeah, I almost think you almost have to keep that exactly how it was approved under the zoning that it was because it creates issues for Shelby when you're in the future, but
If it's a park, it would be when it becomes a township park, it becomes inconsistent with the zoning of other township parks. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, but it was created through different mechanisms than how the other parks were. It was created through a development scheme that's specific to that land area that got subdivided and developed and forced them to create the 160 acres.
The MCX is all, what's the definition again, township owned?
No.
No.
Just-
Could be other.
Mentioned township, they mentioned
And
township
other
itself.
uses?
Yes.
There's other uses. But they're all public uses primarily that are permitted.
Okay, I just think that,
I would suggest maybe in the short term here, we look at the community park and the reservoirs, MCX, and all these other issues. They've been there forever. We can certainly continue to look at it if it needs to be all MCX or all these pros and cons at once. I don't think we need to resolve it. If you haven't resolved it through the land planning committee at this point, left it as is. I think the focus tonight should just be on, for this process to be advertised and go through the review process we should have. I'm proposing an MCX for the community park and the reservoir property.
I agree.
Because they are abutting, and our goal in terms of the long-term plan is to have contiguous park system there at some point in the future. What do you think? Anyone board or Judy, Kristen?
I think that makes sense, but
I think it makes sense also. There's no objection to it. That's really, if it's a desire of the board,
Okay.
it does make sense.
So let's just check if the board's okay with that, so that's the proposal. Good?
Yeah.
Good? Yeah.
I think if you're gonna do one park, you do all the parks MCX, so that's why everyone's writing it.
All right, so we have 4-1 at the idea for just this evening is done with those two parcels present. Okay.
I'll Emily make the update.
Okay, what else have we got in terms of the zoning ordinance update that needs discussion this evening by the board? I have one related to short-term rentals. So, bear with me, too much paperwork. So my understanding is, right now, in the zoning ordinance, we've left the short-term rentals would require an annual license and inspection every 2 years, or with a change in tenant is how it would be covered. Is that correct?
So those are the provisions of our rental license ordinance.
And short-term
General
rentals
rental
are
license.
not differentiated away from any other type of rental
Not at this time.
assessment.
Not at this time.
What's
no.
the definition of short-term?
We talked about in the land planning committee, we talked about once this ordinance comes through, updating the rentals and breaking out the various types of rentals and how each rental is impactful as a rental, whether it's a single family dwelling, a student home, apartment complex, a short-term rental. We had lengthy discussions, I believe, in the land planning committee about updating that rental ordinance and keeping it out of zoning.
so the definition, and this is one of the comments I had, is renting for a period of 30 consecutive days or less, any dwelling unit in whole or in part for exclusive transient use. I had suggested, I didn't know if it was a policy decision, if you want to allow a room in a dwelling to be rented as a short-term rental. I thought that there was discussion that you just wanted, if you're gonna do it as a short-term rental, you have to rent the entire dwelling. You can't rent individual bedrooms. So right now I have 3 bedrooms empty. If I lived in West Goshen, the way this is worded, I would be able to rent a bedroom in my house as a short-term rental. So you guys need to make a decision. I thought it was that you have to rent the entire dwelling.
Kristen's correct. The last discussion that Kristen and I had with Chris and with Shelby was that it would be the whole dwelling in or nothing. And we did not take that phrase out of whole or in part. That was left over. So my understanding was when we last discussed this, it was the entire dwelling or nothing.
You mean as defined as a short-term rental?
Yes, so you could not rent out an individual room as short-term rental.
Like on Airbnb, you can't say I
Right.
have a room.
Correct.
Well,
And that's a policy decision for you guys. You
Yeah,
get to make that
that's to go
decision.
either way.
Yeah.
well, we need to determine that because the inspections are based off of that. So right now, if you have an Airbnb, you're gonna have to get an inspection every time you have a new tenant that comes in, or a rental person.
Well, there's no way that can work. If you're gonna allow a property to be used as short-term rental, every time a new tenant comes in, you're not gonna be able to have an inspection.
No,
You
where
can't
did we
do that.
land
That's my
with
point.
short-term rentals? Where did we land?
That's my
Like, what are we
point.
allowing?
The rental license ordinance allows for the waiver of the inspection requirements if an inspection has been conducted within the previous 90 days, I believe it is. And to Shelby's point, we were talking about breaking out the different types of rentals within the
You
ordinance.
almost have to.
Yeah.
With the rental ordinance.
The rental
zoning.
ordinance.
Not the zoning ordinance.
But Ashley wants to know where, if I'm not mistaken, wants to know where the board landed on whether or not you could rent out individual rooms or it had to be the whole house. Is that your question?
Or wasn't your question just generally where are we allowing?
Generally, where
Yeah.
did the land planning committee and at least the last time we had the discussion as a board, what do we allow as far as short-term rental? How are we going to like oversee short-term rentals?
I believe it was through, there was going to be a definition in the zoning ordinance, and then it was going to be administered through the rental license ordinance.
And you're allowing it anywhere where a dwelling's allowed?
That was
That's-
correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I remember we had an initial discussion early on about like, should we only allow it in specific zoning districts?
And I thought,
remember,
yeah.
and I remember it was like, well, if one dwelling unit in this district, what makes it different from
Yeah.
that dwelling
Yeah,
unit?
that was a lengthy discussion. It became a fairness discussion.
Yeah.
But the only thing I do recall us was it going to just be single-family detached dwelling units? Or was it any type of single-family unit?
You have it in any dwelling.
It was any type of single family was the way it was going to be, and that's when the discussion was, but if it's a multi-family, like townhouse, then it's all or nothing, and that's how we ended up.
It's all.
And the things with townhouses, they may become self-regulating through HOAs, because I know a lot of HOAs prohibit through their bylaws, like Airbnbs and short-term rentals.
Renting for less than a year. Most declarations say you can't rent for less than a
So
year.
how are we dealing with Airbnbs in West Scotia?
Airbnb is a short-term rental. That's just a forum for a short-term rental to market.
Okay,
Yeah.
then we need to look at the inspections on
That's what they're saying. They're going to, that's the second step. So there was a discussion that you're gonna have to look at your chapter on rental requirements, rental permits, excuse me, and you're gonna have to carve out short-term rentals and figure out how you wanna go about inspecting and issuing licenses for short-term rentals. The Borough of Westchester did it, and I have a great example to provide to you. So when they did the same thing. They have a two-part process. They dealt with it and defined it in zoning, said what districts it's allowed and how, and what are the regulations. And one of the regulations was you have to get a rental permit. Well, then you go to the rental permit chapter, and it specifically says what you have to do to get a rental license for a short-term rental. So you will have to also do that analysis of your rental requirements to figure out what's different about getting a license for a short-term rental.
And so far, we're allowing the use in every district?
Anywhere there's a dwelling.
Anywhere there's a
Right, so
dwelling.
any residential,
Correct.
even multifamily,
Yes.
okay.
And that's purely policy. So you guys can say, a lot of
I agree
municipalities.
with that. I
Yeah.
don't think that we should be limiting.
No, we should.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
wanna
some
go
municipalities
further.
think it should
Yeah.
only be in a single-family detached dwelling.
No, it's
But
their property,
it's-
they should be.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So-
we're good then. So what
But you're
we
gonna
have
take out
is-
the
We're gonna
part,
take out that
so that you
clause.
cannot just rent a bedroom in a room as a short-term rental. Is that the consensus of the board?
That's not true.
No, we're
Why?
taking out,
Why wouldn't we?
there was
Why would
one
we?
phrase that was in here that implied that you could rent out an individual room. And the amendment that Kristen suggested, striking the phrase in whole or in part, would take that potential light would be the entire dwelling would have to get rented.
Not in part.
Not in part.
So then you guys have to decide. If you're allowing one bedroom, then that language stays in.
Yes.
Okay.
And then also then they would have to go and get a rental license. They
Right.
wouldn't be exempt.
That's fine.
The owner of the house.
The owner of the house.
That's fine.
This will have to change though, because it also says that no resident of the dwelling unit lives on site in the dwelling unit. So we're gonna have to rework this.
We're gonna have to be,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, no. No resident of a dwelling unit lives on site of a short-term rental?
While it's being rented as a short-term rental, if the requirement was you had to rent the entire dwelling unit, then somebody who owned it wasn't also there at the same time. But if you are allowing individual bedrooms to be rented, then that language has to come out. So the first question I have is the majority of the board comfortable with allowing individual rooms within a dwelling unit to be rented as short-term rentals?
Yes.
Okay,
So yes, yes.
okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what to work with that?
So we leave the in whole or in part in.
We're gonna have to look at it.
And
Julie.
we
We're not
take
gonna
out-
wordsmith it right now,
Yeah.
because if there's so
I'm
much
just
that's
saying,
gonna
we're
work.
circle, we
Yeah,
just have to look
yeah.
at that.
Talk to
And
them.
make sure that that says what the policy the board was just expressing.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Okay.
Okay, so we got a decision, a policy decision made on that, we cleared that up, so that needs a little bit of adjustment before we send it on its way.
Yep.
And then just help me understand in terms of the process, so this follow-up action, this follow-up step, in terms of looking at the short-term rental requirements in the rental ordinance, how soon after, are we moving that along now?
We can start on that. Yeah, that won't be long.
Okay.
And that would only be a 7-day advertisement process, and that wouldn't have to go through the county planning commission.
Okay,
review.
so we can parallel what we do.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
whole process, so that by August, everything should be in place.
Yeah, we can get that ready.
And you can't, I don't believe we can copyright the law, so we can borrow what Westchester Borough did, and we have a source right here.
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. All right, that was my question on short-term rentals. What other questions does the board have relative to open items in the zoning ordinance? Okay, we're
Yeah.
good on that.
That's all.
And then some. So before I look for a motion, is there anyone here in attendance who has any questions about the zoning ordinance, either from prior meetings or what we've just discussed? Steve?
Yeah, I'd like to get a list of what you've changed on the first reiteration of the zoning codes, the newest one you put out.
There's a red line.
We have a red line copy of all the changes that were done since the last draft that was put out. That was sent to the board.
I had sent that to the planning commission
Oh,
as
you
well.
did? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we sent two. We sent the clean version and the red line for just that, for just your question, because it was important for me to be able to go to check and look at all the lists to make sure everything had been done to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me know, Steve, let me know if you can't find it and I'll resend it to you.
Okay.
It should be around May 26th or 27th.
Okay. I don't have to read it.
Yeah, you don't have to read the whole thing.
Right, that's
Print it in
important.
color.
It's a lot of reading.
Yeah.
Also, I made a note that, you know, the wireless communications takes like 12 pages of this. Is there a reason we have to keep that?
Yeah, because that's the Federal Telecommunications Act. That's the zoning issue. The Federal Telecommunications Act dictated that language, and we don't want that to change, because that law has not changed.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are bound by that law.
And Doug Stewart made the point back in one of these prior meetings about rezoning the area around Fernhill and Goshen as more of a medical use. And
Medical district is what
Yeah,
we wanted.
medical district. Is that still something that you're looking at or not?
I don't think so, because I believe at the joint meeting we had, there wasn't any traction to proceed in that direction, and that keeping it zone residential was the consensus at that time.
And the land planning committee had at least 2, maybe 3 discussions about it, and it was generally consistent as to not do that. And the BLI district, if you look through it, would capture a lot of those uses for medical offices, hospitals, clinics, things of that
Right, so
nature.
is it gonna be BLI?
Yes.
Yes, not.
Well,
Well, there's one piece that
property-
remains residential and the rest were,
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the other side, you're talking about the other side of Phoenixville Pike, the west side, yeah, that's going to remain residential. All the other property where the complex is now is BLI.
That's correct.
And so Sean, you brought up at one of the meetings also about by right, you know, we're down to R1, R2, and R3. And there's a lot of usage by right, and it didn't used to be there. How is that going to affect future development in the say R2 area? I mean, there's a whole list of things that people can do that I don't believe was in the prior zoning.
So I'm not sure I agree with that, Steve. I think a lot of them were.
Okay.
I'm looking to either land
You're
planning committee or
concerned
Judy.
about that?
A lot of them were, they just weren't listed specifically in that district because it was all uses permitted in the X district plus this, and this. And not all of the accessory uses were listed. They weren't actually listed, it was just sort of paragraph form. So we created individual uses for all the uses. That's why as you see a list now.
Okay.
So
it
the
is part
nature of
of
those
the list.
districts is basically the same stuff.
All right.
It's part of the making it more obvious and understandable is to have these lists by every zoning district, so you can see the uses straight away instead of going to all prior kind of things.
And one of the things to remember is they'll still have to go through the land development process. So they'll still go through review for stormwater management, review for parking, things of that nature.
I think your fundamental question, I believe, is there some kind of many new uses now allowed in residentially zoned areas? My belief is there isn't. There is probably 1 or 2. We've certainly allowed accessory dwelling units, which was a big change, if you like, but it's still residential. Okay, other questions, Doug?
For the data centers, are on-site primary power generation allowed?
The way we addressed that was that that's not defined as the data center, and that's defined as a private utility. And that's something that they would have to go through a different process to be able to do. And that is actually, as I said, it's an evolving ordinance. That's something we need to look at and determine whether there's sufficient restrictions or regulations relating to private utilities, because it's a use that, unlike others, it's something you have to think about, that they may bring their own power, where now that doesn't really happen, so we don't, the municipalities don't regulate power supplies necessarily because the public utility does. So we will continue to work at that and come up with some suggestions for how we regulate that.
And there's also pending legislation in the House right now that's talking about the regulation of power generation also. So I think we need to look to see what's coming down through a few of the pending House bills also.
So I assume that backup power will of course be allowed.
Yeah.
As far as primary power, shouldn't that be addressed here just in case? I think it's.
Well, it is addressed,
It's
but
addressed.
it's addressed, it's just, I'm saying it's something that we want to continue to look at and see if it needs to be improved, let's put it that way.
For that.
Did I have? It's the I'm looking for power generation stuff on 67 for data center. Public utility was a, how can you say?
What page is that?
F1, public utility facility, page 48. F2 rather.
But this would be a private utility.
It was a, oh,
It would be a public utility.
that's true, that would be.
And that's why
Yeah.
we might want to add a definition.
So even if it's providing its own primary power, it's still considered a public utility?
No, that's what I'm saying. We need to add a definition for private utility to the extent this doesn't have one.
Private utility.
Yeah. 'Cause it would not be a public utility, that's the whole point, yeah.
So that's it to do, add a definition.
We should, yeah.
Or would you change the public utility facility just, no, you won't change that.
No, because the MPC exempts that, yeah.
Right.
I have examples. So part of this process in all the municipalities, we looked at how they regulate private utilities, and most don't. But I do
Right.
have some that have definitions and some regulations, so we'll work on that.
Okay. Between now and when it goes out.
Yeah. And we'll share that with the board, obviously.
Before it goes
Yeah.
out, right? Okay.
Right.
Other questions? Steve?
One more. So do we have any standing if a data center goes in next to our township, for example, the Wyeth property? If that gets developed as industrial, do we have a standing, West Goshen, they have to be?
Only if you own property, if West Goshen owns West Goshen owns the property in close proximity, you could have standing. Not to say that you can't go and let your voice be heard, and it would be heard, but to have actual legal party standing that would stand up in court, West Goshen would have to own property in close proximity.
Does that include streets?
It includes, no, it does not include streets.
Just curious, not where that stands.
It stands that that's exactly where they're proposing to put it in their industrial district, but it's having very stringent regulations like your data center ordinances. Pretty much the same ordinance. No. The borough is very difficult. Where are you going to put a data center? The only land that's zoned industrial is the Wyeth tract. So that's, they do. There is an approved plan that's going, they're actually recording the plans for warehouse. So there is right now an approved plan being recorded and supposedly built for warehouses. So cross your fingers that that's actually what goes forward. Or maybe not. Maybe you think that a warehouse is not a good idea and the data center is better. I don't know. But right now, there is an approved plan for a warehouse.
Okay, other questions? Okay, so I just want to recap the three things I believe we agreed tonight that need to be incorporated in the final version that would be authorized for advertisement, hopefully. One is that we agreed that the community park and the adjacent reservoir would be zoned MCX. The second was that the board made a policy decision that short-term rentals are not just a whole dwelling. It is renting rooms allowed, and there were some language changes to make sure that was consistent. And then, Kristen, you mentioned the third thing, which was that we need to ensure that private utility definition is incorporated because of this data center potential on-site power generation. Was there any others that I've missed? Okay, so at this point, is there a board member willing to make a motion to authorize the updated zoning ordinance for advertisement, including those three changes that I just mentioned?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment or questions on the motion? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0.
Question, Chris, can you go over the timeline from this point on, what the other steps that have to be done before we can consider adoption of the zoning ordinance by the supervisor?
So the tentative timeline would be review by the Township's Planning Commission, which we would look for the July 14th meeting of the Planning Commission to do their review. We've lined up a representative from Gilmore Associates to attend that meeting. Stacy Yoder will attend that meeting, as well as myself and Shelby. Then it would also simultaneously, we'll submit it to the Chester County Planning Commission for their review. We will also post it on the Township website for the public review once the legal advertisement runs. And then it will hopefully can be considered for adoption at the August 4th meeting, but it's all going to depend on meeting the timelines for under the municipality planning code.
And the other thing, I mean, I don't know if you guys want to wait to see what the county planning commission has to say, because if they have suggestions and you want to make changes, you have to make those changes and send it back to them. So I don't know if you want to just authorize it to be sent to your planning commission and county planning commission and wait to see what that letter says.
What's your experience of a revision of this scale, having comments?
Did you have somebody from the county planning commission come to all your meetings?
We did not,
No.
because we didn't do this
Yeah,
under a
you
vision
didn't do it.
partnership grant.
Then I think it's probably worth waiting. But that's totally up to you, because again, their comments are strictly recommendations. They are not mandatory. In Cowan, for example, who just did this, Mark Gallant, who was a county planning commission member or employee, came to all the meetings. We thought the review letter was going to have a lot. It said nothing, because he had provided his commentary throughout the whole process.
Because did they go through a vision partnership
Yeah.
grant?
Yeah, and we did that in Phoenixville too. We had Chris from the county who attended the meetings, and I think there were 2 comments for consideration, neither one of which were relevant to the borough.
Well, that was my next question. If from these reviews, either my own planning commission or the Chester County Planning Commission, they come up with a suggestion or request, and we decide to go with that,
You
we have
send it back.
to authorize.
If you decide to go with that, then you would send it out to review again to the county and to your planning commission,
Right, so we have to do the whole process over.
which you would do anyway if you were sending it to them as an interim and not yet advertising. If you make any changes at all, it goes back to them.
I don't see a downside to advertising either. We get comments back that are, we find are not that big a deal.
We're not gonna
Just
hold
keep
a
moving
hearing.
forward, or we,
Well, are you going to, I mean, it costs a lot of money to advertise. Are you going to advertise it and then get the comments and decide you want to make changes, but then not hold the hearing?
Well, what you could do is you get the comments and just hold off on advertising until you get the comments back.
Why, well, I can't. If you're going to set it for August 4th, I need to advertise it 2 weeks prior. 45 days is going to fall before, at the end. I'm not even sure we're going to get to 45 days with August 4th.
Right, if we would
It's
get to
31, trying to
45
do
days now, like if it went out.
We just send it like soon, like
We just send
tomorrow.
it this week,
That's
right.
why I said tentatively, so we can always kind of adjust the schedule.
Yeah, you can always reschedule.
What you could do, let me just look at the calendar real quick, because I think if you want to set it for your second meeting in August, that will give us enough time. I think that will work. Let me just look at the calendar real
I
quick.
think the concern is we'd like to get this in as quickly as possible because of the data.
Right, I understand. So if we get it back, 45 days is on or about August 3rd, basically, right? And we can get it done this week, which I don't see why we wouldn't be able to. I can speak for myself, I hope.
Right.
So if we could have a comment letter back by August 3rd, you guys can discuss at your August 4th meeting if as a result of that letter you want to make any changes, which we could then make and still advertise it. We'd have to advertise it by the end of that week, by August 7th, and then we could also advertise it on August 11th for the 18th. So we can still make it work. If you want to go ahead and authorize advertisement, I would do so for the 18th.
Fine.
we just took a vote on it and authorized the draft advertisement, didn't we, Chris?
You
That's
didn't say
correct.
what
So
You
date-
didn't say what date,
You
though.
didn't say what date for a hearing. I listened
Okay.
carefully.
Right, so-
I listened very carefully.
Okay, so right now then, we're going to just hold off on what that particular date is, and we're just going to proceed with the process that you've outlined. Okay?
Yeah, that sounds good. Did you take the actual vote?
Yes, it is.
Okay, sorry. My head is spinning with dates.
All right, and
So we'll be in touch.
We'll be in
Yep.
touch, yes.
All
And
right.
I'm Stacy on
There
call.
was a vote.
All right.
Thank you, Judy, appreciate it.
Thank you for your time so much.
Thank you, Judy. Do you have some time tomorrow afternoon to talk? Okay, sounds good.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, which is discussion and possible approval of the landowner agreement with the Chester County Conservation District for the Fresh Meadows Lawn to Meadow Conversion Project. Chris.
Let me just get that. So before the board this evening is the proposed landowner agreement with the Chester County Conservation District for the proposed lawn to meadow conversion project at Fresh Meadows Park. At the May 5th meeting, the board authorized participation in the grant program with the Chester County Conservation District for this project. Additionally, the Sustainability Advisory Committee prepared a survey of the Fresh Meadows development that was mailed to residents that actually closed last week. And the proposed agreement sets forth a 25-year obligation to maintain the items outlined in the plan, and this is a requirement of the grant program. So just for reference, this is the project in question. So it would establish a meadow area as well as do some tree planting and shrub planting on both sides, as well as maintain a central field area.
Great. So questions for Chris from the board?
Yeah, I have one. What was the response from the survey?
I would say they were generally mixed. There were some that were concerned about potential establishment of a meadow causing a harboring of rodents and ticks, and there were also some people who supported this fairly heavily. I spoke to one of the residents who was a pretty heavy supporter of doing this project.
Did they call you or?
They called me, yes.
I think they also said they had concerns about the bus stop is right there, and because of the high meadow and all, they can't see their children.
There was this, yeah, there was a recommendation for a walking path, and I know this SAC is going to discuss the survey results at their meeting on the 23rd, and they're going to discuss kind of making a couple of changes to address some of the concerns that
But the
were
meadows
expressed.
are smaller and at different location, so they're working on it,
Yep.
changing based on the comments that were made.
Nick Danella sent me an email about reducing the meadow area in order to still meet the 1 acre requirement for the grant, but also spreading out the field area in the center. And there was some discussion about potentially doing some type of like mulch walking path that could provide a way to the bus stop.
Is there still going to be a substantial area of like lawn for kids to play? I feel like there
Yeah.
will be, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's the
proposed
central
one.
ground
Yeah,
area
yeah.
in there. So that would be the center lawn area. And if it gets reduced to an acre, I believe the total land area of that tract is 2.3 acres. So instead of having 1.3 acres of meadow and like trees and everything, it would be 1 acre of the meadow area and 1.3 acres of the central field area that could continue to be utilized for like football and stuff like that, which were what a lot of the comments were.
That's what they're using it for now.
So when you say mixed results, do you mean like 50-50 support?
I didn't go and tally it up. I'm going to say that. I reviewed a lot of the comments, and I would say that they were mixed results.
I'd say they're positive. I'd say majority were positive. I did see the results, yeah. I said they were positive. I didn't really see too many negative other than suggestions.
I would agree with that statement.
Yeah,
And the suggestions are the things you're looking at changing.
exactly,
Correct.
exactly.
There were a number of comments about maybe a walking path because of the road, the way to the bus stop and seeing children, and that's one thing the SAC is going to discuss. I had a conversation, once we got the results, I also had a conversation with Dorothy Bearden about it, and they're going to talk about them further on the 23rd.
So tonight we're not finalizing any design, we're just entering into this agreement to make sure where you can access
Correct.
the grant funding to execute a project.
That's correct. And this has to be returned to the Conservation District by the 26th. And our Assistant Public Works Director did attend the kickoff meeting with the Conservation District back at the end of May. The work in terms of the installation is going to be done by the Conservation District, and then we would just maintain everything.
As part of this approval, we do have an appendix that shows the specific plan that's up here tonight, so that would
be adjusted.
Okay.
So do we, in order to sign this agreement, do we have to have a definitive plan in place?
I think you should go through the process. There are changes in plan. There are changes in plans that occur as you evaluate projects. Now, I won't sign this until after the SAC meeting on the 23rd, so I imagine Nick will turn around. Nick Dinella has done a lot of the design, so he'll probably make some adjustments based on that. I won't turn it back to them until the 26th when I
So
get it.
by the time you put it in, we should have that done.
Correct.
And what's this going to cost the township, bottom line?
I believe the cost information is around, pull that up.
11,000.
Yeah, I believe it's
$11,450, yeah.
about $11,000.
Well, that's the total
Yes,
project
yeah.
cost. What's it going to cost the township?
1,800 and the 500.
I believe that sounds
It says
about right.
1,183 in-kind match from West Goshen Township.
That's correct.
Plus the 1,800 and the 502, right? So there's 3 items there that are in kind matches.
Correct.
Science free question, John?
Yeah, it's just $1,800 is what I'm looking at. That's
Well,
Well,
there's
but it
three.
does say
There's three.
on project budget for the first 5 years, the township will steward the community and watershed
Well,
for
again,
practice.
this first one is an in-kind match in charge of gas conservation. So it's just 1,800
Yeah.
from the West Goshen
On the
Township
bottom one, too.
and 1183. So we're talking with 20, no,
29, just under 3,000.
about $3,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a question.
Yes, Tom?
Could you repeat the location? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's Fresh Meadows, the neighborhood that's across the street here off 5 Points. As you're going north towards Community Park, as you leave the building, it's on the right-hand side.
Right now, there's a development, as Mr. Walsh stated, there's a development, it's just a big open field. That's all it
It's
is.
in the middle of the development.
Just before the park?
Correct. Directly across from West Goshen Community Park.
Okay.
And this was actually a combination because it came from an idea from the SAC coupled with a recommendation that's in the draft park recreation and open space plan to like do some plantings and nectar nodes and some native species kind of in this area. It was identified as kind of like an underutilized area and something that can be done in the short term.
Thank you.
Okay, so we don't have a motion yet, so I'm going to move the process along here and make a motion to approve the landowner agreement with Chester County Conservation District for the Fresh Meadows Lawn to Meadow conversion project, subject to a final design revision for the actual project. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nate. Is there any other comments or questions from anyone in attendance or from the board? Okay, then we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Agenda item number 7, discussion regarding a possible amendment to Chapter 78 of the West Goshen Township Code of Ordinances to restrict parking on a portion of Maple Lane. So this one's with the board, so I'll introduce this. So before the board this evening is discussion regarding a possible amendment to Chapter 78, which is Vehicles and Traffic, of the Township's Code of Ordinances. The Township received concerns about parking in the area of Maple Lane closest to the intersection with Westchester Pike. The concerns were in regards to on-street parking near the intersection in the vicinity of the insurance office at that location, which creates situations where motorists must enter the lane of oncoming traffic in order to properly navigate the area. Sergeant Greaser in the police department, the department's traffic safety unit, undertook an analysis of the area and spoke with the owner of the farmer's insurance business at the location. Sergeant Greaser believes that the best course of action would be to restrict the first 20 foot of curb line after the entrance to the business. This will still allow 2 to 3 vehicles to park along the curb, but will give enough space to safely avoid any traffic coming off of Westchester Pike. There was an image provided to show where the specific restriction could occur, which is what Chris has up there. It's that line in red, which is on the south side of where the entrance is into the farmer's insurance parking area. If the board is in agreement with this recommendation, we can prepare the necessary ordinance amendment. The board could authorize advertisement and consider adoption at the July 7th meeting if desired. Okay, so are any questions from board members?
Well, what was the response from the insurance company's representatives?
I believe, based on what I'm inferring from Sergeant Greiser's email, this recommendation is based on his conversation with the insurance company to address the concern to still provide a parking area further
So is there a set, if you were to put this into an ordinance, is there specific languages where it's prohibited a certain distance from the intersection? Because it would have to be that specific in the code.
We can measure it off and do that.
Because what determined the 20 foot? Why not 25 feet, 30 feet? Is it a specific traffic calculation that's done?
I think that would be about two car lengths, is that correct? About two car lengths.
There's also, as we do, just make feet off the parking regulations towards the intersections.
It's prohibited.
Right, so I'm sure that's where that number came from.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, but I think that even the 20 feet, just this restriction, will make a huge difference for the people that live on the street.
Yeah, when I went to Google Maps and Street View, there was a car parked right where that 20 feet is. So if you had to, if you were coming up to that intersection to go right onto Westchester Pike, you would have to navigate around it, just as somebody might be turning into.
Yeah,
maybe
people
one
come
of the-
flying
see
in,
it.
and
They
yeah,
can't
and you
see
have,
it.
yep, exactly. That's a huge problem.
So there'll be no parking signs put up in that section.
But before we can install those, we need an ordinance adopted by the board.
Okay, so what do we need tonight then?
So if the board wishes to, you could authorize advertising. This is something.
I mean, it's simple, but like I said, I'm gonna need somebody to give me specific language on exactly where parking is prohibited.
So you just need us to just proceed with preparing
I think,
that.
I mean, if you're comfortable, it's simple enough that you could, the motion could say, authorize the solicitor to work with your staff and your traffic safety unit to develop the appropriate language to prepare an ordinance and to authorize the advertisement of that ordinance for adoption at one of your July meetings.
Okay, so is a board member willing to make that motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you. So we have, as Kristen just outlined and as approved by the board with a motion and a second. The way forward is any public comment or questions? Doug?
I have two questions. Just to the right of the red line, is that a sidewalk?
It's a driveway, I think.
It's a paved area.
Yeah, it's
I think.
paved, it's a sidewalk,
So
yeah.
Okay, so, and then the second question is, the cars that were parking along that red line, were they mainly customers to the?
No, I think they're employees of the insurance agency. I think they're employees, I don't know.
Okay, so then they would park south of that where the grassy area is?
Yes, they would still be allowed to park along below the red line. They also have some parking in the back here, and they also have that lot up there.
Okay, so where the sidewalk ends, would that be a problem if they parked south, where the south there, and then not have a sidewalk, would that?
Well, as they're exiting the vehicle,
On the other side.
Well, okay, they'd be exiting on the street, yes.
Yeah. So they're going to walk in the street where the oncoming traffic's coming.
Okay.
So it's probably safer that they're asked to park further away from the intersection.
Other than that, I'm fine with it, it's good.
I was just saying to Kristen, what I would probably do to measure the distance for the ordinance is just run it from Westchester Pike down to the edge of the sidewalk, to the grass strip.
And parking that whole area.
And that way it prevents anyone from blocking, even though it's already illegal to block a driveway entrance, blocking the driveway entrance, parking at the intersection, anything like that.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, then we're ready to take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Agenda item number 8 is the discussion and possible appointment of individuals to West Goshen Township boards and committees. So, let me introduce this. For the Board of Supervisors this evening is consideration to appoint the following individuals to the Township's boards and committees. Mr. Todd Lawback. Mr. Lawback has applied to be an alternate member to the Planning Commission. If appointed, he would complete a term that expires in January 2027. On June 9th, 2026, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend his appointment. Please be advised this would fill all vacancies for this commission. Ms. Sue Costello. Ms. Costello has applied to be an alternate member to the Zoning Hearing Board. If appointed, she would complete a term that expires in January 2029. Please be advised there would still be 2 vacancies for alternate members to the Zoning Hearing Board. So, the board have any questions or comments on the proposed individuals? No. Okay, I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Lawback to the Planning Commission and Ms. Costello, I'm sorry, Mr. Lawback as alternate member to the Planning Commission and Ms. Costello as an alternate member of the Zoning Hearing Board. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nate. Is there any public comment or questions? Okay, then we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. We are up to agenda item number 9, which is reports for the month of May 2026. And we start with the police report presented tonight by Captain Domidio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, Mr. Manager. Police report for May of 2026. We responded to 2,039 calls for service. 42 of them were alarms, none were valid. 80 of them were accidents, 18 of them were reportable, and patrolled 15,452 miles. Along with our selective enforcement program, we conducted selective enforcement on numerous streets throughout the township, including Route 322, South New Street, South Concord Road, Taylorsville Road, Grove Road, Falcon Lane, South High Street, South Five Points Road, and West Town Road. Amongst the training that was conducted throughout the month, and officers that attended training throughout the month included crisis intervention training, or CIT training, which we sent all our officers to, their monthly emergency response team training, officer level leadership, FBI National Academy retrainer, IPTM symposium, active shooter training, and ERT negotiator training. Two announcements. So Camp Gumshoe, back by popular demand like we do, rising fifth graders that we host for Camp Gumshoe. In the summertime, we have 3 weeks of camp this year. The first week is July 6th through the 9th. It's Monday through Thursday this year due to the school district's restrictions on Fridays because they're working for 10-hour days this year. So the camp is Monday through Thursday this year. July 6th through 9th, July 13th through the 16th, and August 3rd through the 6th. Those camps will be from 9 a.m. to noon at Fernhill Elementary School this year, moved from Fuga Middle School. I'd also like to announce that National Night Out this year, August 4th, the first Tuesday in August, as it is every year, will be at Henderson High School again this year. Any questions?
Yes. How do people sign up for the Gumshoe camp?
Camp Gumshoe. So it's on our social media. There's QR codes on the social media website.
Is it possible to put a link on the website, like the homepage or something?
Absolutely.
So that people can get to it?
Yeah,
Or
I can
easily?
send
I
that.
tried to
Or
look
I can,
before, but I
we
couldn't.
can do that in-house. Yep, we'll do that
Okay.
in-house on the website.
That would be awesome. Be
Yep.
great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's filling up soon. We'll get that.
I know, I gotta make sure my kids get it.
It's very popular. It's, last year we did 4 weeks, this year we're doing 3 weeks just due to personnel. But, and like I said, it's 4 days this year. They're just going to cram everything into 4 days because of this.
It's a really good camp.
I have one question. The dog complaints that are listed, 6, 6, and 5, are they the same ones from last month and last year? And what type of complaints are they?
Same exact ones as far as the residents?
Residents.
No. There are some duplicates, but
Okay.
and dog complaints can be obviously bites. There was one just recently, right towards the end of last month, there was a dog bite up north. That was something different. There was a duplicate one also up north. There was a same dog, but dog complaints can be sporadic.
Okay, so there may be bites not barking?
There's a couple barking in there.
Barking,
Yep.
okay.
Just the dog bites one that just rings in my head. Everything ever seen. Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. Captain, there's quite a list here of selective enforcement intersections. Can you describe, for the sake of the record, what exactly is selective enforcement? And how do you determine what intersection will be selected?
Sure. So selective enforcement is intersections or roadways that we tag or recognize as being either issues because of crash data or mostly because of complaints, public complaints. So it's the Traffic Safety Division, specifically Sergeant Bryce or Officer Ash, will every 2 weeks will send an email out department-wide areas for enforcement that we would like the officers to concentrate on. And like I said, that's based on mostly off public complaints, but once in a while, because of accident data, something's going on that there's an increased area of access for one reason or another, that'll make the selective enforcement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Tom?
Excuse me, I had the same question Mr. Hillman had about the selective policing. I'm glad you mentioned Falcon Lane on that report. Is West Town Way on that report? I don't know if I heard that.
It is not. We have a very small, it's not on this month's report. It was a very small portion of West Town Way. You may not know, like just that area. It is not, but it could be added.
Could be added.
Sure.
On the 300 block there, which is still West Goshen Township, as soon as people turn from West Town Road and get on that straightaway, they get on it. You can hear it when they get on it.
So turning on the West Town Way.
When they turn on the West Town Way.
Yep.
So you're right behind the pumping station there, 300 block. And if they're not speeding, they're sure hitting the accelerator because you can hear it. And it's all times of day.
I can hear it on Falcon Lane, where I live.
Yeah, from beyond there.
I was talking to a neighbor who lives up on Daisy Lane. And he's been there 51 years, he told me. He says, do you hear those cars? I says, yeah.
It's a straightaway, right? It's a flat street. Yep.
Correct. So, I mean, a good spot. Thank you.
Yeah.
And if I could add to that, coming the other direction, on the 200 block, there's a hill there. They come flying over that hill, and they hit that straightaway, and they are really zipping down. So both directions, you got a lot of speeding going on. Very dangerous. Especially for folks trying to back out of the parking or driving.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Captain Nvidia, appreciate it. Just FYI, the township also receives reports from Good Fellowship Ambulance Company, Westchester Fire Department, Goshen Fire and EMS each month, so we do have additional information. Chris, I always forget, we do post that as well, right?
Yes.
So it's on the web, on the agenda materials. Okay, we are on to agenda item 10, Board of Supervisors announcements. I'll start to my right. Ashley?
I have no announcements.
John?
Yeah, I just have a couple of things. Wednesday, May the 27th, I participated in the West Goshen Township Police Community Meeting. Chief Carroll shared arrest data from the year 2025 and compared it to the prior year 2024. There's also discussion on community policing. Lieutenant Cotter talked about initiatives from the juvenile division, and also how the department as a whole reaches out to partner with the community to prevent and address crime in the township. The next meeting is to be determined. It should be though within the 3-month time period. And on Wednesday, June the 10th, participated in the Fire and EMS Coalition meeting, which at this point, and I'm sure Tina's going to talk more on this, strategic plan is being developed to guide the township on how best to provide fire and EMS essential services to our residents in the foreseeable future. That concludes my report.
Thank you, John. Nate?
Yes, 527, I also attended the community policing discussion. 528, attended the historic commission meeting. 62, attended the State of Housing Affordability and Homelessness in Chester County seminar at the Government Services Building. 69, attended the America 250 meeting at East Goshen. Just wanted to say also on 5:30, the America 250 joint celebration with East and West Goshen was held. It was a huge success with a crowd estimated at 6,000. Many thanks to all involved with putting on this event. Coming up July 18th, Battle with the Clouds bus tour has been canceled due to lack of interest. That's my report.
Thank you, Nate. Tina?
Yeah, a couple of things. Just to elaborate on that, on June 2nd, I also went to the Chester County Department of Community Development, the State of Housing Affordability and Homelessness in Chester County. Just some stats that came out of that. They have about a $20 million budget. 80% of it comes from the feds. The rest is donations, grants, various departments in the state. And also donations in 2025, they got almost $8 million in donations.
Can I ask you, how are they using that money? Are they
Yeah, I'll get to that. In 2025, there was 1,047 people referred to the street outreach team. 648 were individuals, 486 households served in emergency housing. They're basically 163 required homes, 63 homes were repaired, 100 homes were on the waiting list, and they pay like 30% of their gross income for that. The homeless, some of the money that they did use for that was able to decrease the homelessness by 30% in Chester County in 2025, basically due to the agency. During the past 5 years, 52% fewer people entered the emergency shelters in Chester County. And some of the stats since 2020, they reviewed 2,548 people. 805 were permanently housed, 702 were self-resolved, held on their own. 157 went into institutional situations. 53 decreased or relocated. And mental health calls, they get about 1,600 calls per month, which is a 24/7 at the 988 call center. So that's how they spent their money. Just to elaborate on the coalition meeting, some things came out of that on June 10th. We extended the RFI deadline to June 18th at this point. We also, Chris and I had a meeting with Westchester University. They're going to help contribute to the cost of the RFI now, of the RFI. We also added a guest speaker to our vendor list, and he also was at the coalition meeting. And the reason why we added him is because he's AJ McCarthy's his name. He's currently the fire chief of Longwood Fire Company, and he also spearheaded for Kennett Regional Fire Department, the regional station. So he has a lot of background on different methods and, recommendations. So I think he can add a lot of insight on the pros and cons of not only regionalization, but some other methodology that we can use. So we did add into the list. That's why we extended it to the 18th. We talked about our emergency blocking equipment. We're going to apply for a $100,000 grant. If awarded, that will give us $150 total, which is the $50 from Carolyn Committa, for new equipment versus purchasing used equipment. And the seriousness of it is due to a recent fatality on Route 30, where we had 2 emergency personnel sadly had died as a result of that. So that just kind of increases the importance of this emergency blocking equipment that we really need. So we're going to hope to apply for the grant soon. Kim Holman very graciously is going to work with Steve to apply for the grant. A couple other things. We did change our name from the coalition to the Westchester Fire and EMS Coalition. We thought that was more appropriate. And then some of the topics we're going to discuss at the next meeting is going to be strategic plan results. We should have the RFI results by then. And also what we're going to add is a cooperative fleet maintenance with Goshen, GFAC, and Westchester. So that'll give us some saving costs if we can put something together where we can all use the same company for a cooperative fleet maintenance. So we'll discuss that a little bit further. So, and then also, just to elaborate a little bit, on June 10th, I attended through the Chester County Business of Industry. It was called Executive Insights, and it was basically a panel of visionary CEOs that was held at Phillips Memorial, Westchester University. And there were 4 CEO people that were there, basically. One was from Essential Utilities, which is also known as PECO. Comcast was there, Independence Blue Cross, and the owner and founder of Saxby's. So it was very, very interesting talk in their community and how they're involved in it. None of them talked about their successes, and they all talked about how the great people around them helped them form their organization and themselves. By coming together and collaborate was the key to success, not by themselves, and they did it. They all had the same kind of theme about that. They talked about the greatness is not what you do, it's who you do it for and who you do it with. So they're very embedded in the community, and they feel that that's what makes them successful. It's just on tips they gave. And they mentioned that leadership starts with including the employees in everything. Leadership starts with creating a mission, engage people, bring them into the dream, give them tasks, and the CEO knows when to take a back seat. Share the challenges and bring employees in to help overcome the challenges. And the last thing they mentioned was walk and talk the values of the organization, and not most intelligent people succeed. It's trust and culture that makes a leader succeed. And it was moderated by 6 ABC Tamala Edwards, who did an excellent job. So I wanted to share some of those insights that were, I thought, very powerful. That's it.
Thank you, Tina. Appreciate that. Yeah. I just have 2 announcements. One, it was my privilege and honor to attend the America 250 celebration that Nate mentioned, and I was able to say a few words on behalf of West Goshen Township. And the board met in executive session on June the 2nd to interview potential candidates for the zoning hearing board. So those are my announcements. And with that, if there are any questions for the board, okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 11, Township Manager's announcements. Chris.
Mr. Chairman, the Township's June e-newsletter will be issued the week of June 22nd. The Township offices will be closed on June 19th and June 3rd in observance of the Juneteenth and 4th of July holidays, respectively. There will be no changes to waste and recycling collection these weeks. In terms of our 2025 audit, the audit is being finalized for the Township, and our intention is to hold the presentation at the July 7th meeting of the Board of Supervisors. And to the best of my knowledge, there were no issues in completing the audit this year. At the May 21st meeting, we had discussed the waste and recycling bid. We're finalizing the bid documents and preparing to conduct the survey once the bid results are received. One item that was not discussed at that meeting was the length of the contract, so I wanted to ask the board, do we want to proceed forward with a 5-year contract as we've done in the past for this service?
What were the escalators in the current contract? Were they a CPI escalator each year?
I don't
fixed percent.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
What are the board's thoughts?
Which contract is it?
Waste and recycling.
I think it's whatever was bid. I don't, you mean what, we didn't set what it was. You're saying what did we have
Well, just what is it?
pay?
Is it the escalator for a 5-year contract more likely to be CPI based and a set percent, or?
And the vendor included those pricing in their bid responses, but I don't remember what the escalator was each year.
But that was in our bid document, whatever direction we wanted to go, right?
It was not. It wasn't discussed.
Okay, so it's whatever they responded.
It's whatever they
However
responded.
they bid it for the 4th and 5th year. I mean, I think you can go either way, because each of you is taking a risk, right?
Yeah.
What's the other option, 3 year?
3 years.
It's, well, no,
It's
it's whatever you
want.
it's whatever you
It
want it
can't
to
be more
be.
than 5.
Okay.
Traditionally, it's been a 5-year bid.
What are the board's thoughts?
Why would we not do a 5-year bid in case?
Something changes.
Which is in the industry gets more competitive and prices go down versus.
I think 5 is a little long.
Could we ask for a 3 and a 5-year
I
bid?
think that a 3 is fair.
Well, can we have a provision in there that after the first year that, like a 90-day advance notice for termination, for like a 5-year period or something like that?
I mean, you can do option years. I wouldn't suggest doing.
Yeah, I think you don't get as good pricing when you do it that way.
I would agree. I've done that before.
Yeah. So it's either a 3 or 5-year bid term is what you would recommend, Chris?
Correct.
Okay.
You split the difference and say 4.
Yeah.
Well, has someone got a firm opinion on it?
I say 3.
Yeah, I'd go with 3.
I agree.
Again, with the somebody who's a recycler and trash people, may not like their services. So far, the Republic's been doing okay, but we don't want to be locked in forever.
They can also be sold and have
Yeah,
another company,
exactly, yeah,
which is a
we want to
mess.
Well, there's in your bid specifications, it says that if they sell it, they need your approval, that you have the right to terminate the contract.
So I'm hearing 3 years. From
Is there any surrounding municipality that we can, I know is there any way we could leverage scale here and look at combining at some point with another municipality with bid contract?
I don't think for this type of system that would really work. it would be too big of a geographic area. I mean, we're 12 square miles with the collection system.
I'm not saying the same day of the week, I'm saying just having, the Republic has other municipalities in this area.
You'd also have to line up all the contracts
Yeah,
when
so
they're
that's-
expiring.
Okay, well, let's just go with what the board suggested.
We talked
3
about
years.
that at the COG, and it became a nightmare, different expiration dates.
You also have different systems with different municipalities.
and different
I hear you, but
phases.
if you want to save money, ultimately, economy of scale is definitely a way to go. Anyway, so for tonight, we're going with a 3-year bid term. Okay.
Okay. Just an update on our filing with the Inflation Reduction Act. We filed this back in February of 2026. We have not heard anything. So I reached out to Representative Houlihan's office, who did contact the IRS, and as luck would have it, I received a letter from the IRS regarding our elected payment, and based on that letter, we should receive payment within the next 4 weeks.
Great.
So probably sometime around July, I would say, mid-July, I would say.
This is the final payment?
This is the final
And
payment,
how much was that?
$158,319. In terms of our projects, the Paley Pike Sidewalk Project, Carroll Engineering has submitted a meeting request with PennDOT to discuss the options for the proposed sidewalk along Paley Pike, and they are still awaiting a response. The bids for the Basin Road Stream Bank project have been the first advertisement was on June 9th, and so the bids went live on PennBid, and our plan is to present a recommendation to award to the board at the July 21st meeting, with construction occurring in the fall. In terms of the improvements to West Goshen Community Park, with the splash pad, I had our meeting with DCNR on Monday regarding the $60,500 grant that we're receiving from Senator Comita. And it sounds like what we're going to do, since we already have a grant from DCNR for improvements to Community Park, they're going to amend our grant contract for that in order to incorporate these funds into the existing grant. The North Hill Storm Sewer Project is in a phase of getting closed out, and then we're going to submit for reimbursement through DCD, through the PA Small Water and Sewer Grant that we received for that project. For the Rosedale Avenue Sidewalk Project, I actually just received the final payment recommendation from Carroll Engineering today, so we're going to close that project out and submit for reimbursement for that grant under DCD as well. The paving project has been completed. There are a few remaining items such as asphalt curves, pavement markings, and punch list items. And in speaking to Mark Berlami, he's very pleased with how the project turned out. The Cooper Smith Park Pavilion is completed. They finished everything up late last week, and Mike Cacovo had the security fencing removed, so everything is in shape for camp. And it was inspected by the structural department from Carroll Engineering, who found that the repairs were sufficient. And I believe I provided some pictures of the work to the board. We've submitted our community development block grant application on May 21st to the county with a funding request of just under $1.1 million. And based on my conversations with the Department of Community Development, I anticipate that we're going to be hearing on the award sometime in the fall. And then our Goose Creek application, we had meetings with DEP and Land Studies, and I provided some information to the board related to those meetings, but we are on track to submit our application by the end of this week. And then finally, just as a reminder to the board, we do have a conditional use hearing on June 23rd for the Westchester University Master Plan. And I believe we're going to have hearings on the 23rd and the 30th right now.
That's correct.
And so those are all scheduled. And notifications went out to the property owners the week of June 1st. I will let the board know there were 316 notifications that were issued. But if it's anything like the Planning Commission, I will open up this room. I believe there are about 30 or 40 that attended.
So that's the same, the letters went to the same people who we sent to the Planning Commission, or did we not send any notifications?
We sent notifications to the Planning Commission. I used identical lists for both.
Okay, so it's the same 316 people, basically, right?
Correct. And just to I'll let the board know, it does cross jurisdictional boundaries. So there will be some individuals from neighboring municipalities who attended. There was one who attended the Planning Commission.
Has the master plan been through all the borough hearings at this point?
There's this hearing scheduled Monday night.
This is the last one, or?
Well, we anticipate it to be. There were probably 10 people that were granted party status. They only, for the most part, they only came to the first meeting. There was maybe 2 other people, that's not true. 3 or 4 of them came to the subsequent meetings and asked questions. So we're not anticipating that all of them will come on Monday. Mr. Nagel has 1 more witness. And then, I'm sorry, the borough has 1 more witness. The borough presented their consultants just to go over the review comments. So Mr. Comita is going to be testifying as their land planner, just going over his review letter. And then we'll open it up for anybody who's a party that wants to present evidence. I don't anticipate that that will take all night, so I think that they will close the hearing on Monday. And I told Mr. Nagel that their 45 days to render the decision falls in, doesn't give us enough time to do it, to make it to their August meeting, so I asked if he would grant an extension. So it's anticipated that the borough will be making its decision at their August 18th or 19th meetings.
How many hearing meetings were there in total? 4, including the upcoming one?
This will be the 4th.
How many notices were sent out to 300?
316.
And how far of a radius is that from the university?
So what we did was we did a 500-foot radius from each area in the plan where a major project was proposed.
Okay.
And there were 4 areas where, there were 4 or 5 areas where projects were proposed.
And for someone to have standing to be a party to this hearing, are they, all those people who receive notices, would they be eligible to be a party?
I believe so, yes.
Well, it depends on what the university objects.
Yeah, it would depend on if they're.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell you that if they receive notice that you've sort of made a determination that they own property in close enough proximity, but it's up to Mr. Nagel to say whether he objects or not.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
What is the rule then for distance from any major project?
There's no set
500
rule.
feet?
There's no set rule. There's cases, and I'll give you I'll bring it with me, but there's half a mile is too far, you know, so typically it's a quarter mile, 1,000 feet is about what the cases are going to say is sufficient.
Okay, so it's really just a matter of negotiation between.
Well, it's not just where there's a case law behind it, so you have to be a person aggrieved, so you have to identify how you would be impacted more than just the general public would be, and you have to be able to articulate that. It's presumed that if you own property in close enough proximity that you would be impacted by the decision. So in the cases where and in the borough, what the council decided, there were probably 4 or 5 people that were about 1,100 feet away, linear feet. And we had said, okay, 1,000 feet, because he didn't object to anything 1,000 feet. So we were like, if there's 4 other parties that are 1,100 feet away, they wanted to let them in. And I said, well, that's, you know, all right. And if the court tells you, I don't think it's going to happen to the point where the university appeals any sort of decision. So I don't think it ever come up as an issue. It would only ever come up as an issue if the university, if these parties that were admitted presented evidence that substantiated or supported a denial, and then they would argue, oh, they shouldn't have been admitted as parties. So it was one of the things the council felt was important to admit. And I'm not saying anything, I'm not revealing any client confidences. This was all a public meeting, so you would have heard all this be stated.
So it's unclear, those people who are at 1,100 feet, the borough was going to grant them party status, but the university objected.
The university objected, but the borough council ultimately got to decide and chose to let them in.
Okay, understood.
So basically, I think everybody that asked to be a party was granted party status. I think it was like 10 to 12 people.
That's all, I'm surprised. I would have thought there would have been more.
Okay.
So that's everything I have.
Thank you, Chris.
Just a quick question on the projects. There's a couple of projects that are, PennDOT's kind of holding things up, the Paoli Pike sidewalk. We need to get some input from them. And also the Montgomery Avenue flood mitigation project, we need an HOP from them in order to do some work there. Now, where are we at as far as making contact with PennDOT to get those questions answered?
Well, regarding the Paoli Pike sidewalk project, as I stated, Carroll Engineering submitted a request for a meeting, so they're waiting to hear back from PennDOT about scheduling a meeting with them regarding the discussion at the May 21st meeting. And then the HOP has been submitted for the salt day work for utility location Montgomery Avenue, and that can be up to a 30-day process. So we're waiting to hear back from PennDOT on approval for the HOP. It's in their hands at this time.
All right, so how long do we have to wait before we ask again for a meeting? PennDOT tends to drag your feet on
They've
these
gotten
things.
better, they've gotten a lot better.
I would say if they don't respond within 30 days of the request for the meeting or the HOP, then we follow up with them.
Yeah, I feel like their policies now are really being proactive with trying to have meetings. I've noticed that on my end, that they're trying to be more proactive. I know that's with Governor Shapiro and his trying to get permits issued faster.
Depends on the topic.
Yeah, that could be.
Okay, any other questions for Chris? Steve?
Any update on the Parkway project?
We issued a review, our traffic engineer issued a review letter on their HOP. All of his comments have been addressed, and it's in PennDOT's hands for their review.
Any other questions for Chris? Doug?
Any update on the Greystone, Woodlands and Greystone Park?
They requested the park, you said? Well, they have not requested a punch list inspection for the park. They've requested a punch list inspection for Aaron Avenue, which I believe is occurring next week. But as far as the park's concerned, I'm not aware of them requesting any kind of an inspection to address the punch list items that Brian previously outlined.
And that's still an ongoing process?
Correct.
Okay, do you have an estimate when they think the work may happen?
Any estimate that I would give you at this time would not be accurate. I can't give you, until they address the punch list items, I can't give you an estimate on when it will be presented for dedication.
Any other questions for Chris? Okay, we're on to agenda item number 12, zoning officer announcements.
Mr. Chairman, so the first item I'll address is the application for the goalie trainer. Just so as the board's aware, there was a vote by the zoning hearing board to grant the application. A neighboring property owner subsequently at the end of May filed an appeal in the Chester County Pathonetary Office on the decision rendered by the zoning hearing board. So a neighboring property owner has appealed the decision. So that's going through the court system.
So just so I'm clear, so that now goes to the court system?
Yes.
So the appellant, or the applicant who obtained the relief will have to defend the zoning hearing board's decision. And the intervener, who's the neighbor who was unhappy with the decision, will argue that it was an error of law, but you do nothing. The zoning hearing board files the record with the court and steps back.
Okay.
Does the zoning hearing board have to defend its decision?
No, it does not. And you typically don't.
It's up to the applicant to defend it. At the May 18th meeting, the zoning hearing board heard an application for an extension by 1212 Phoenixville Pike, which is property for the Brandywine Valley SPCA. That application was approved. So their upcoming meeting on June 22nd, they'll hear an application for a property at 204 Seal Lane. The applicants are seeking a variance from section 8413 of the zoning ordinance to permit an encroachment into the required front yard setback in order to construct a roofed front porch. So that application is going to be heard at their meeting on Monday night. And then there is an application for 100 Trevor Drive that will also be heard on Monday night. The applicants are seeking a variance from section 8447A to permit an encroachment into the required rear yard setback so that they may construct an open air patio. And then at their meeting on July 27th, the township will hear the zoning hearing board will hear an application for 701 Coltrane Lane. The applicants are seeking a variance from section 8447G1 to permit a 52-inch tall fence in the front yard adjacent to Bernstein Lane. And that one will be heard on July 27th. So those are all the applications in front of the zoning hearing board over the next 2 months.
Any questions on zoning? All right, we'll move on to agenda item 13. Approval of the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes for May the 21st, 2026. I have submitted a few typo corrections to Chris. Has anyone else submitted changes? No. Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve the supervisor meeting minutes for May the 21st with my corrections. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tina. Any comments or questions on the meeting minutes? Okay, then we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Agenda item number 14, approval of the Treasurer's Report dated May the 31st 2026 for the general fund, the sewer revenue fund, the waste and recycling fund, and the capital reserve fund, and the bills to be paid from these funds. I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report and the bills to be paid. Is there a second? Thank you, Ashley. Any questions or comments from the board or anyone in attendance on the bills?
I just had one question on, this would be after the page 2, Hampton Inn parking fee for $270. Just wondering what that was for.
That was probably, I would imagine that that is for a conference that was attended, most likely by, I believe that was maybe by the police department, I can't say definitively.
Parking fee, $270.
Stay a couple nights, usually $50 or $60 a night.
Oh, I assume there's a parking fee, not a hotel.
Well,
It
you pay
is.
to park. A lot of
You
times,
pay to park
like
at
in
a
the city, you pay a separate
Really?
fee for a parking garage, yeah. Typically $50 to $60.
Depending on the location.
Okay,
It's not cheap.
I don't have anything else.
Chris, I saw a lot of contracted services for Help Now. It's like standard amount several times within a individual.
Help, it was brought to my attention that Help Now had failed to bill us for a period of about 6, well, they didn't fail to bill us. They were, instead of emailing us the invoices, they were actually physically mailing them to us, and we never received them. So this is catch up on that.
Got it. So this is really for this earlier months this year, right?
It goes back, actually goes back to November of 2025. I've since told them that they should be emailed to us.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. I move to adjourn the meeting at 7:55. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Stand up here and sit. Okay. I think it's good to have. Okay. All right,